Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let the record show we're all here. If there's anybody from the public that wants to make a comment, they need to go over to the table there and read the script and then fill out the form to make a public comment at the end. We'll reserve about 30 minutes for that, but you only get about 3 minutes to speak on your topic. And we probably will not be responding unless the chair allows it, I guess. Is that okay, Kristen?
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Can I get the consent agenda approval?
Motion to approve.
Second. Where's my script? I'm new at this, so be patient with me. This year you are.
The only thing, there is a typo on the minutes from last week's meeting.
Okay,
I've already pointed that out to Jeanette, who's taking care of it,
okay,
so. This is just merely a spelling,
okay.
so we're good to go.
Okay,
I'll move that.
you move it, thank you.
I think.
Oh, I'm
Miller and
sorry.
Jorgensen already did.
Oh,
Oh, who did?
Miller and Jorgensen.
Okay, thank you. What did I do? Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay. Up now, we have representatives Seek and Turek and what's that?
There should be a few more.
Yeah, Seegers is coming.
Oh, yeah. You got state time and county time.
Whatever you, have no idea.
We got the over and unders.
Yeah.
I lost. I did hear from Representative Winchell's staffer, and he can't make it. However, I did not hear from Mark Costello, but Dan and Brent should be here.
Brent said he's coming.
Well, do you want to, there's two of them. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen.
Parking.
Yeah.
Parking space.
Next it would be the school bus, right?
Do we need,
I'm bringing my ticket to you if I get one.
that'd be good. We need any water or coffee for you gentlemen?
No.
Okay, you expecting any more? Probably not. Okay,
Doesn't get any better than this.
well,
Thanks for showing up.
I won the over under, so, who wants to start? We want to go alphabetically or what do we want to do here?
Well, I think that we brought you in because we wanted to kind of get a flavor of what you expect this session to discuss or pass as far as it goes to county government. And, from those topics of, there's talk around the capital of a 2% cap and that kind of stuff. And just wanted to know what's on the slate, what can we expect, and kind of get some kind of a flavor.
I say.
Well,
These two guys are in leadership, so there you go.
I mean.
I know, I saw the eyes looking at me here, so.
It's best that you guys kind of, I guess, introduce yourselves and give us the landscape. And then if we have time, I'd like to allow us to have some questions.
Sure.
If that's okay.
I'll start. Brent Segrist, State Representative, House District 19. I'll be serving on transportation, state government, ways and means, education appropriations, and I will chair the House Administration and Rules Committee, and I'm an assistant majority leader. I think it's going to be a relatively productive session. I think there's a lot of feeling that it's time to kind of slow down a little bit. We've done a lot of major issues last couple of years and kind of let everybody catch their breath and as we move ahead. Senator Dawson will talk more extensively. Obviously, property taxes are going to be one of the probably the biggest issue of the session. That's what you're all concerned with. And between Senator Dawson and Representative Kaufman in the House, hopefully they'll come up with some detailed plans, which I know they don't. They're looking at everything, and I'll let Dan address that. But it will be difficult. Other than that, I think you'll see some emphasis on, this doesn't necessarily affect you per se, emphasis on preschool and early literacy, which is something that's extremely important, and also childcare. That all works into our workforce development issues that we have in the state of Iowa. I think you'll also see us looking at workforce housing and the housing issues in the state. The city of Council Bluffs has a specific ask on that in terms of some TIF language and what have you. So I think you'll see some action on that. Other than that, the budget, despite what you may read, is in pretty good shape. We anticipated with the tax cuts that we put into effect that there would be less revenue coming into the state, more money in the pockets of the taxpayers, which they are spending that money. And so when you hear the hysterics about, oh my God, we're not gonna be able to fund anything, I reject that notion, assuming the economy doesn't fall apart, which I don't think it will, although John Deere just laid off some more people yesterday because of the farm economy and commodity prices. I think the budget's actually in pretty good shape.
Thank you.
Dan Dawson, representing Council Bluffs and Carr Lake here. This is starting my third term. I chair the Ways and Means Committee, also sit on Judiciary and Veterans Affairs. For right now, we'll see how things pan out as our session goes on. I'll echo what Brent says. I can pause my opening comments here now, let them introduce themselves first, come back to property taxes or whatever you want to do. But no, frankly, from the Senate standpoint, we have a lot of new chairs this year. Not so many new members, but a lot of new chairs. And chairs the caucus sets a tone, but the chairs definitely set a direction. So it'll be kind of interesting from a Senate standpoint. We haven't had this much of a change up in quite some time. So I'll be kind of anxious to see what our new chairs direction they try to take some of these caucus ideas in and produce some legislation.
David Seek. I live in Glenwood, Iowa. I am in District 16, and this is my 6th term, start of it. I have all Freeman, all Mills, Eastern, it's really a jagged map, half of Potawatomi County, except I don't get the township that Shelby sets in, or Shelby. I do not get Avoca, the township that it sets in. It actually goes to a new rep that we have that replaced Brian Best, and I've met him, but that's all. And I also have Neola, but not the township it sets in. I have Minden, I have Trainer, I have the township that McClellan sets in, but not McClellan. So if that tells you how my district runs, that's pretty. I got Trainer. So anyway, what?
And Oakland.
Oakland, yeah, I forgot Oakland, yeah. Oh yeah, Macedonia, Carson, yeah, I got those too. All right, so, you want me to go through the Mills County ones and the Fremont County ones? No, I'm glad to be here today and, meet with y'all. I've met all of you and worked with you on some issues, and I always appreciate your support. I guess I sit on agriculture, transportation, and technology and economic growth, which has been thrown together for a few years here now. And then we have a new budget subcommittee that's just coming out because we have 67 members in the Iowa House, so they need more committees. So we created 2 new committees. Higher education, now we got a higher education. And we have one that's called Federal Monies and Others, okay? And federal monies and others, if you realize the Iowa budget, it's roughly about $8 to $9 billion. We probably get that much funding from the Fed. Some years I think it's over 9 billion, some years it's under 9 billion. And that's just rough idea what it is. So that money comes to the state, it's turned over to the state agencies, and then they apply the rules that come with the money and try to figure it out. Well, they thought they needed more oversight on that. So that's the new committee, which can be kind of interesting because It's kind of like what they're trying to do in DC with Doge. I call it iDoge, what we're doing. So anyway, what we're gonna look at, and I'm the vice chair of that committee. I've been, selected to be the vice chair. I didn't ever want to be a chair, so vice chair is a good spot for me. And, that way I don't get lobbied so much. And I'm excited about that, to see how that funding goes and what we can look at to see to make sure it's going in a place that we need and the directions we want, instead of just because it only has 2 rules on it, they pick something, maybe the path of least resistance for the agency to have to do. So I think that'll be an important committee. So I'm excited to be there. And, the ag economy is suffering right now, and that's probably the biggest drag we have. And hopefully that gets, turned around and going the right direction. A lot of people say it's not going to happen in 1 year, maybe 2 to 3 years. So let's hope it's sooner than later. And that's about all I have to say. I'll turn it over to Representative Turek.
Dave, just so you know, I got FEMA and Iowa Homeland Security sitting in this little room over here.
There you go.
So they're working still on our levees and drainage districts.
Right.
you know.
Well, we've got a lot going on with there. We need to bring them back over and have a meeting with them because of the fact that there's a lot of things that haven't got paid down in Mills and Fremont County. I'm assuming that you guys are fighting the same thing with FEMA. We've actually lost a bridge in FEMA, and from FEMA cannot find where it was for 2 to 3 weeks in their hierarchy that they were supposed to replace after the flood of 11. So if that tells you what's going on with FEMA really needs an overhaul. I'm hoping that's one of the big things they look at the federal government, because it is so it's just meant to make you all not get what you want, because,
Good luck.
yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate your support with
Yeah.
that. Okay, sorry, Josh.
Josh Turek, my list is a little bit easier on the cities, Council Bluffs and Carter Lake, the other half of Council Bluffs that, Brent doesn't represent. I'm going to be your ranking member on Health and Human Services budget. And I'll also be on Health and Human Services policy, state government, which will be a new committee for me, natural resources, and then, Veterans Affairs. I'm in the minority party, and so largely going to be a passenger on the train to some degree in terms of policy being set, so I'll let them certainly lead it, but I'm going to do my best to have a lot of influence on HHS, probably my biggest area of passion.
Yeah, we're staring their changes right in our face. Is that the department that's eliminating our employees?
What's that?
Is that the department that's eliminating our employees?
It is.
That's not a good situation for local control, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Sure.
It's gonna be 14 counties. They all have to come to Council Bluffs.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna work very well, I can tell you that, so. Got my fingers crossed, my legs crossed, my toes crossed, so see where it goes. We're losing people we've been training for 20 plus years. Tell them they're going to have to go to another employer that is somewhere in Des Moines. You know, how that would sound if you were told that.
Sure.
It's not good for morale or anything like that. So I'm not really picking on you.
No, I understand.
That's the reality of what's going on.
That's why I'm here.
Good. You want to end that sad story? One of you?
Dan, you were gonna
Heat it up?
hold your comments on property
Yeah,
tax.
well, okay, I just let you guys set the agenda here, so. No, we will be dealing property taxes this year. I can tell you right now, I don't know what that looks like. I think that there is a large appetite in the building to really reset the system. Not just, I know you mentioned the 2% cap earlier on. I don't think that really resets the system, right? Does it achieve a goal? Yes, it does. But ultimately, in the end, I think we have a lot of problems with our system and a lot of, there's gonna be a lot of ideas out there. I can tell you personally, the way I would envision things is that, I was talking to Brent actually on the way up in the elevator. We're still actively working through some ideas there because I'm not sure what's possible yet or not. I'm sure there's gonna be a ton of bills getting filed and flooded in there. But my goal would be to get something out mid to latter part of January and then start to get some input. And then kind of take that throughout the session and see where we land up on that, right? But I would say that, this becomes a topic of conversation. You see nationally what they call a property tax revolt, right? A lot of states are going through the same thing here too. It's nothing unique to Iowa. But what is unique to Iowa is that we have the 10th largest property tax burden in all the United States. And when you have the 10th largest burden on that on a very complicated system, it becomes a very large issue with the people that we all elect, right? And that becomes the problem with the state legislature is that, we had this conversation many times before, you know, you all are, we all represent the same constituents. They'll come to you, say, we want services, and they come to us and say, hey, we get the runaround and we need property tax relief, right? So there's always that push-pull as to where that dividing line is there. And in the Iowa Constitution specifically states that the state has the purview of controlling the property tax system. So trying to find what that right balance looks like is important. But one of the first goals I would like to achieve this year, if we do anything else, is to actually be able to simplify this system so you all understand how property taxes work and the people paying it understand how it works. Last year, as we know, after House File 718, we started the process of trying to provide some transparency budgeting statements, right? And people looked at those and they could not make sense of it. One, because it wasn't tailored towards them. And two, because of all the different inputs we have. You got the rollback, you have the homestead, you have the senior credit, and all these things here and everything, right? And no one understands really what their tax liability is in the end. And frankly, this is not anything in the room there, but, you know, I've met with county upon county of individuals, and my, you know, it's become apparent to me that there's a lot of elected officials out there, including the state legislator, who do not understand our property tax system, right? It's complicated, you know, and so I would just implore everyone that I don't see this, I've never approached this as a state versus local issue. It's just, how do we all, you know, make this a system that puts the property taxpayer in charge, right? And I think that becomes the goal of transparency. And I just want to, you know, talk about, well, you know, where is the problem at, right? You know, and people would say, well, it's this county on that side of the state, or this county on this side of the state, or this city, or something like that. But I'll give you a local example here as to how the property taxpayer gets the runaround all the time. And this comes to us from a member of our city council that did a Facebook post last October. And this is what the city council person said in this town that we currently sit in here. The city council does not have the ability to raise property taxes and always puts Council Bluffs first. As you know, the county assesses our properties and raises taxes. So if you are a property taxpayer sitting in this town,
Well, that person there doesn't understand the system, so.
and that's my overall point.
Now, that goes back
Yep.
to the people that elected that person.
Right.
And you think they know it? The people that elected them know the
Yep.
system?
Yep.
So.
That's
so
the point there.
We're back to the electorate.
Yeah.
People aren't gonna know unless they wanna know.
Yeah.
And they don't wanna know because they see the statement and they know they have to pay it.
This is not related to the statement. This is a general
No,
public
I'm
statement on
just-
property
bottom-
taxes.
Bottom line is, the people that voted them in don't understand it.
Scott, you're not
But-
telling us
Yeah,
anything we
you're
don't
not,
know.
we had the same conversation, but I'll just say this, and this is nothing, but this is the problem. As elected officials, we get all the time. It's like, well, I talked to my city council, they blame the county blames the assessors, and someone blames the schools. And if you are a property taxpayer, where are you supposed to go in the end? And that is why we constantly get the critique at the state level. This has never been a judgment on anyone's individual job. I use this as an example. This isn't a far-fetched problem we're dealing with. This is something that a city council person here, and not the person that ran against me, let's just spell that here, right? Another city council person decided to put on Facebook, and that is something that he puts out to his friends and his family and whoever else follows him there. And either that person has been sleeping through the budget process or intentionally misleads people. And this is where, from a state legislative standpoint, when we have the 10th highest burden in the United States and a system that no one can understand, we have to, at the bare minimum, try to provide some more transparency on how you actually have a house and how that house value computes to your taxable bill in the end. And that's where I want to get to in this system.
Well, you know, and the value of those houses in today's world, the problem is they won't sell it for what it's assessed for. So I don't know where the discretion's really at there. If you want to, say the assessor is not being fair, we have to have some sort of valuation or we're not going to have any taxes.
I think Senator Dawson's right. The problem is that we have 100, how long have we been a state? 100 and
Some years,
175.
yeah, we've been a state for a long time. And all we've done is, instead of fixing things, we add another wedge onto the pie, right? And so the problem is we got so many wedges on the pie, we can't even remember what the pie is anymore. And I think that, I agree with him. It needs fixed. We've gone through the same thing in the school system. When you say Brent, pretty much in the last 10 years is looking at the school system because we had, all these silos. And, a rural school couldn't use that money in that silo because we don't have anything in the rural areas that could be used for as the cities have. So we're, been breaking down the silos, trying to change everything. And I think what Dan's saying is we got so many slices in that pie needs to go back and be relooked at completely and start over because we made the damn thing too complicated.
Most people do not read their tax statement.
No.
And they come down to our Lee Voss downstairs and
Yep.
all you gotta do is watch
We have a
downstairs
weekly
while they're
thing
paying their
and we
taxes.
overtaxing.
And they're mad, and it's the county that's done all this taxing, where 60% of my taxes are schools. 20% roughly is the little city of Crescent, and 20% is the county, but we take the blame. And when I say we, the board, it's a revolving deal where we're here and then we're not, and someone else is in here, and they take the blame.
Dan, our tax levy is currently 2.58, is that correct?
No, 3.58.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3.58. Okay, where's it going to be at the end of this legislative session?
But we don't, I said, we're still actively going
We're
through. Yep.
looking to finalize a budget here in the next few months. How are we going to do that? And you guys can't tell us what's going on, where are we going to be sitting at? It's confusing. It's confusing for us because there's so many things we don't know. We can't factor in.
Well, to be clear, any bill that we pass, property taxes are always 18 months out. So nothing would impact your current budgeting this session here. What we would do is pass something, whatever we can't find some consensus on, which would then go into your FY 27 budgeting process. Nothing impacts your 26.
And will there be any legislation that happens early on in this session that could impact our budget for
No,
this? Budget
no,
for this?
no.
What about allowable growth? When, I'm not allowable growth, the rollback, is that gonna change?
That's why I said everything needs to be on the table. And frankly, and this has been I've said this many times before in the last 6 months to a year. The rollback was a creation back in the late 70s because the legislature and the governor from, decades ago was never able to curb the growth of property taxes. And so what the idea born from the 70s was, well, we will just start to curb back what your taxable valuation is, right? It was done on a statewide basis. And from there, I think that started a very bad precedent, as Dave alluded to, of, well, we're going to have this property type class come in and lobby to get this taxable valuation come down. This property class type come in and lobby to get that down. It's like this race to the bottom as opposed to treating everyone equal. I think the rollback is a creation that has, especially after post House File 718, I think the rollback is something that needs to be revisited and probably something needs to be put into the sunset. If we are going to really deal with property taxes and give people the transparency that I spoke about earlier on, some of these things that make the system absolutely more complicated need to go by the
so
wayside.
we're going to uncouple the relationship between properties then?
I said, I need to see what the art of the possible is. I'm just simply speaking
But isn't
that
that
needs
one
to
of them?
be. I think that the rollback, when
Should
you,
never happened to begin with coupling the price of properties.
yeah, I think when
Apples and
you,
oranges.
yeah, I think that, and you especially see it now in, large market fluxes like you've seen the last few years, and Dave would be able to speak to this more than anyone. When you tabulate properties on a statewide basis, and so you're adding all the valuation in from, say, a West Des Moines or an Ankeny or,
County.
Coralville, And then you have some small towns and some small cities that have barely any growth to begin with, and you roll back from 52% down to 46%. And them doing nothing and not having grown to begin with, lose 6% of their taxable value. Again, a rollback, I'm not saying it's the worst tool. In a normal housing cycle, it kind of fluctuates between 0.5% and 1%, right? But when we have large changes in our valuations, like we saw with a booming market, equities are absolutely produced here within the state of Iowa. And if we're really going to try to rebuild a system going forward, we have to go back to dealing with some of those inequities first, which is looking for a system post rollback.
I think that, one of the things I'd like you to consider, what does the state have? $1.5–2 billion in reserve?
Seven,
How much?
Yeah.
7 billion.
Yeah.
Depends on taxpayer relief fund reserves and then ending balance. You add them all together, it's about 7
How did
billion.
we get there? Why are we taxing too much?
Well, that
Those
was
kind of
just
things.
frankly the Biden inflation. I mean, that a lot of it came to there in a booming economy. We had but to be clear, this is what property taxes we try to get to. Like when we have a surplus, we have cut our rate from 8.9% on income tax, and we just went to a flat tax here. A lot of those monies you will not see there next year because we've repurposed those to build out a more competitive system. And that's what we were hoping some of these cities and counties would do out there, is like when they have a 10, 11, 12, 14% windfall in property tax, like actual revenue in property taxes, they return some of those back to the property taxpayer via a lower levy, and some just don't.
But to answer your question, yeah, the economy was growing and the taxes were high, and so we built up a surplus, but we built that surplus up on purpose in order to be able to cut down to a flat 3.8% tax rate that we have now, eliminating all the taxes on pension income and 401k income and things of that nature. And so what I'm saying is that people are gonna say, oh my God, you're gonna have $500 million less coming in revenue this year than last year. We've planned for that. We did five-year expectations, and it pencils out. And unless there's some drastic change in the economy, that surplus will start to go down, but that will put more money into the hands of the taxpayer. I can give you my example. I'm on IPERS, right? I spent my life teaching and in public service. And when we eliminated that tax, that was about $3,000 more in my pocket. I spent every penny of it. So when they say, oh, it's going to cost you $500 million, well, there may be 500 million less coming in, but I'm spending that money. And so the impact isn't really 500 million. It might be 320 million. But over a couple of years, that starts and end up. I'm not a big trickle down economics guy, but when you put more money in the pockets of the consumer, they spend it. There's a tax increase. So if you look at our year-to-year date, our personal income taxes our rates are down. Our sales tax is up because the money's going back into the economy. So I think we're in good shape. Could be proven wrong over the next 4 or 5 years, but I think we did it properly.
One of the things I'd like for you to consider this year, currently, when our treasurer licenses a vehicle, we get 4% of the cost. So if you go by the rule of thumb that we do at this county, an employee costs $100,000 a year. It takes $3 million worth of license fees sent to the state before we collect enough money back from the state to even pay for that employee.
We just passed a law that let the county treasurer, I believe, Lee's behind me.
No.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just speaking on the license plate renewal, that kind of thing. It's still at 4%. Is that,
4%.
and can we throw our hat in the ring and say, hey, can we maybe double that? Get us a higher percentage. Now, when I talked to Majority Leader Winshittle, he mentioned that a lot of those license plate funds go to road improvements.
Road use tax.
So, I mean, that would be a balancing act for you to give it. If you were able to do something like that and give it to the county, to make it mandatory that whatever the amount that we would increase, the Board of Supervisors has to lower the levy that percent. I mean, I'm in favor of that. Since I've been on the board, last 8 years, we've lowered our levy $1.04, combined levy amount. I think that's pretty good. But when you slow our growth down and 85% of our budget is employees, You say, we're gonna give you, cap you at 2 or 3%. That doesn't give us hardly any room for a raise, nor keeping up with the cost of running this building. So,
And just to be clear, the 2% cap is coming from a lobby organization,
Yeah,
nothing
not
from
from
us.
us.
well,
So,
it did come, Iowans for tax relief, but, what was his name? He spoke about it too, in the House.
In the House.
Uh,
Hoffman's the chair.
that's it. It was called.
Uh,
But,
Bobby's not espousing that.
yeah.
He may have talked about it, but that's not where he's coming from. Here's the bottom line. And I think Dan has set it out really well. Everything's on the table. We are listening. They are listening. And so you as individuals need to be talking to us. Your statewide organization needs to be talking. It doesn't always have to be negative. It doesn't have to be adversarial. We're looking at this thing holistically. Dan has
You
spent.
talk about ISAC?
Yeah, which
Okay.
doesn't have the best reputation on the Hill, but that's neither
Understand.
here nor that. There, but everybody's open. I can tell you in the House Republican caucus, we've had some discussions about this, and we've had people get up and say the same things you're saying. So there's that impact there. This is a very difficult thing, but as Dan said, we're gonna try to reset the system. But you've got to be involved and not in an adversarial way. I think we're trying not to be adversarial. And you don't have to look any further than across the river to see how tough it is. It's really, really difficult, but we're trying to do something that would reset the system and the transparency and make it a better system for everyone.
What's happening with the, local option sales tax? What's that look like this year?
No, I mean, are you talking about the bill that we've had the last couple of years on that or something
Yeah.
else? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure where I'm gonna go with that yet this year. And that's, Brian, that's a prime example right there, right? And I know some people have heard me on this rant up here, but I'll go on the rant again. That bill was born out of the idea to collect more monies for local government. If you are an outside online vendor from outside the state of Iowa, you are only required to collect the state sales tax. And a lot of vendors do. Amazon does a very good job of that's what they do. But for the local option sales tax, the way the law is, and this is a U.S. Constitutional Commerce Clause issue, Iowa has no legal ability to enforce an out-of-state vendor to collect a local option sales tax. So many times, out-of-state vendors will just say, well, that's not for us to try to go into one of the 1,000 taxing jurisdictions here throughout the state for local option sales tax and figure it out, because the law already says that if you pay for something, it's not collected, you yourself have to go down to your city or county and remit that penny. Well, I'm going to take a guess that most people don't or anything, right? So if most of these out-of-state online vendors are collecting tax based upon the state rate, the idea was born. This was actually talking to, across the street, the mayor in the opposite Council Bluffs. We can collect more from you if we raise that state rate to 7% and then remit that penny back, as opposed to a state sales tax rate of 6% and 1 penny. Going back to what Brent said with ISAC, one of the other things that absolutely should be on the table is the discussion on the Iowa Water Land Legacy Act. That is something last year that, again, these state organizations come in, and because of one issue, I'm not trying to minimize the issue, but if you look at all the different things that help out your county conservation boards, your placemaking things, all the things that we talk about around here, to how do we grow our communities, a couple outside entities decided to go on a witch hunt and take down that entire proposal by raising the state a penny, remitting that penny back to you, collecting more from you, and enacting some of those programs that go into placemaking. They want to take it down over the premise of, or the issue of land acquisition. So then what they did is they decided to go on to some willing accomplices with the County Engineer Association in the state. And then they decided to go on ISAC, and lo and behold, I sit back and I see all these counties starting to roll up resolutions denouncing Senate Study Bill 1125 or whatever it was, right? It's like all these great things that would actually not that we can't have a conversation on land acquisition, but literally we had organizations take down a bill that had a lot of promise because of a boogeyman and not knowing what was going on, as opposed to coming to the table and figuring out how do we build a better system. So that's really where I challenge every one of these organizations, the state coming back next week, is that come to the table. Because if everyone wants no, it's going to get really clunky, and there's always a lot of damage in the end. But if everyone's really willing to roll up their sleeves and say, how do we build a better system that not only helps you all from a budgeting process, but has some protections for the property taxpayer out there, I think we can have a better system in 4 or 5 years.
Okay, let's pass the ball, no pun intended, to Josh for a second. Let him get his 10 cents or $2 in or whatever you want, Josh. What
You know,
been said.
when I first went up to the Capitol, I only asked for one thing. I said, I do not want to be on Ways and Means. And, so on the taxation side, this is the Equitable Majority Party, so.
And I have studiously avoided human resources all my years in the legislature for the same reason. We all have different.
Right,
Different.
so, but I mean, what do you see for coming up this year?
I mean, it's largely going to be driven by the.
Right, we know that.
Yeah, by the majority party. I mean, in terms of the things that I care about on HHS, I mean, I think we've got a massive crisis with nursing homes.
Oh, yeah.
We've closed 31 of them over the last 2 years. I think we need to put some additional funding towards that. I think we've got a massive direct care worker shortage in this state,
Yeah.
countrywide as well. In the rural communities, you're looking at the average direct care worker making $13, who that ends up affecting the most vulnerable, the disabled. Yeah, I mean, I think we need to take a real good look at mental health, and I think we need to take a good look at the foster care system in the state, maybe the per diem rates, things of that nature. The cancer rates in the state as well, doing something about that, addressing childhood cancer. Put forth a bill last year on doing something like that. I think there are some ideas, but it's going to take a little bit of money. It's going to take a little bit of appropriation. So that's always the question of where we can fit that in, especially as we're looking at a situation where we're probably going to have a little bit less revenue coming in.
The bid that went statewide for the mental health services kind of eliminated this region for mental health. Is there any way you can carve our region out of that?
14 counties.
Yeah,
I mean, we have
It's-
great people, they provide
Yeah.
great service.
it's certainly worth having a conversation about. Sure, I will do my best.
I mean, it probably won't happen. It's a statewide bid and
Yes.
we don't know how it was even evaluated, but all we know is we lost it.
Tim?
But I understand the difficulty with 14 counts.
When are they gonna come up with a definition, which you guys refer to as workforce housing? What's that?
I don't know if there's specific
Sorry, what was that again? I was talking to Dave.
definition.
Workforce housing.
Workforce
Yeah,
housing.
what do you got a definition for that?
Well, we can bring Debbie Durham in here,
Four wheels?
so.
On wheels or something, or?
I'm not sure we're gonna be dealing with that this year.
Just housing.
We did,
Yeah.
didn't we do some last year? We made sure that rural had a good,
Well, but you
Good
guys
charge.
said preschool, childcare, and workforce housing, top 3 priorities, someone said.
Yeah, I said that. I mean,
Okay.
I probably shouldn't have said workforce housing, but housing in particular. I mean, Josh and I have been sitting on a group, that the city's been working on, because what the vacancy rate in Council Bluffs is like 1.7%, things like that. I mean, we don't have enough housing. It's hard to grow. You don't have anywhere to put money, put people. And that goes into the tax credits and things like that for developers to try to develop and so on. So housing and childcare, that's a big part of the
We
workforce.
don't want to take a look at our annexation rules, do we?
That would be a constitutional amendment. I don't think that's possible.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any rumor, or truth to the rumor about building permits?
What's the rumor?
That they're not gonna, you guys are gonna not allow them in
Oh.
cities?
that's a federal thing, isn't it?
Well, no, I've heard, I mean,
State and fed.
I've heard some of that last year.
Wait, detention, retention, drainage?
The building permit thing, somebody else has mentioned that. I can't imagine we're gonna get rid of the building permit code, but,
Okay,
um,
well, that's what I'm hearing, the code's going away.
Can't see how that.
You
I wouldn't count on
How
that.
about detention, retention areas? Development? Haven't heard anything on that either.
I haven't, no.
Really?
Anybody can write a bill. Getting the
Yeah.
bill to pass requires a lot of people.
I mean, we have 2,000 bills filed a year. There's not some
Right.
master puppet behind the scenes where we have a matrix of what's going on. So you might hear some stuff just like on the 2%, right? Some people might say stuff, but I mean, each of us will only speak to our charge as a chair or whatever committees we have leadership list, so we can give you that insight, whatever the general leadership
Sure.
insight is. So
Sure. I'd like to circle back to mental health.
Yes.
You know, they're going a statewide system. Isn't that what we have a problem with at this time? I mean, to have local control on it, wouldn't that be a better program?
Yes.
I see a failure there as a statewide failure from one system. I think more local, like what was proposed before, could really help. I do feel that this is the wrong decision to go a statewide bid.
and I don't disagree with you. I would add a different side to that coin. To be clear, I have remained undecided on this, the statewide contract, right? But I will tell you some of the issues that were born out of the bill that we did last year is because the state funds mental health. And we had some regions out there that were not providing the services that were required by law, that local control you speak of. So we had entities out there, individuals that would then sue because that there was a failure to provide care required by the law, whether it be civil rights, whatever the case might be, right? And then the state was on the hook for that lawsuit and those lawsuits for the lack of ability to provide care. So that's where this pull comes a little bit. I absolutely agree in the local control, but the locals failed to provide that care. It is not the locals that get sued. It is the state, because the state's the one that's providing funding and the structure for the service. So I don't know what's right or wrong, Brian. I mean, I've kind of worked through that there, but that is, I mean, for talking to, Garcia and some of them up there last year, I mean, again, I remain undecided on this, but there are reasons why the state has had to get more involved because some regions just absolutely were not providing it. And
Or don't have the funds.
tens of millions of dollars the state was being sued for.
Because of mental health. This is back in 2017. I got to know very, very well, a woman by the name of Jackie Dykeman. Does that name ring a bell? Okay, and that's why I got involved. Mental health at that time in Iowa was a disaster. She had a son that was down in Clarinda that they closed up shop. She had anyway, what I'm gonna say is you guys know the history there. Is mental health improving in Iowa at this point? Is more money being spent now than ever? How,
Yep.
where?
Yep.
Well, there's a lack of psychiatry and,
There's a lack of
Yeah.
skilled profession,
Right.
particularly in the rural area. But to answer your question is, yes, there's been an increase. Mental health, is it enough? No. I mean, in my role in the education world, almost every superintendent in the state would tell you their number one problem in their schools is mental health for their students. So it's from little kids on up to adults. And so we've been addressing it, but not quickly enough and with not enough resources, but it has increased.
We have mental health problems in our county jails.
Sure, oh,
You know,
absolutely.
we spend a lot of money on mental health treatments.
Well, in a border community, we experience it even more. I mean, that's why we need more Midwest packs, statewide packs where, someone shouldn't have to drive across the river to make a phone call or speak to their, provider.
Yeah.
And with Mercy building a new facility down here, I mean, we need more of that. They're gonna have, 112 beds or something, I
Yeah.
mean, and they'll be full probably every night.
But a few, what you were saying, Dan, was a few bad regions that triggered this thing to happen.
Again, it's what caused us to, take a larger role now, like.
Statewide
Yeah.
contract.
The contract bid, that's something different, I said, but the reason why the state had to get more involved in last year is because regions who were not, like this isn't one, okay, well, punish them. The reality, it's like, it will always be an issue. I mean, Region 4 here could fail sometime and then the state would then have to pick up the lawsuit. It would not be the county. And that's what created that there. So
Right.
now that was, a decision for the department to do a statewide as opposed to an individual region. And that's where I said I remain undecided on that particular provision, but that is one of the reasons why where the state was on the hook for local control
But
decisions.
you guys don't end up approving that contract, do you?
No, no,
So it's out of your hands.
yes. Yep.
Okay, so can we talk about, just for a second, our state park? Well, we have probably the top 10 state park in the state.
Top
They
three.
talk
Top three.
about having houses, and they got one vacant down there going dilapidated in our state park. You know, I
Mhm.
mean,
Same way.
what's
in
going on?
Waubonsee.
Yeah.
They moved the guy out and then they just let the house deteriorate. I mean, what kind of message does that send?
Yeah.
A bad one.
Yeah.
And,
Who's in
and
DNR, who was working with the DNR here?
That is that is an executive branch chapter 20 contract issue because for what little involvement we had, I said, I don't like it. My first job was working at Lake Manawa State Park law enforcement, right? I know the history down there.
Yeah.
But I think there became an impasse between the union and the DNR as to how to handle that particular benefit.
Or that
Uh,
park?
Yes, no, for all, there's multiple
Yeah,
parts
there's,
like that out.
Waubonsee down there has the same problem.
All the
Yeah.
parks are just.
It was,
All of them.
Park.
it was considered a
State park.
benefit
But you have to
rather
remember,
than a purpose for them living there.
Yeah, yeah.
That baffles me.
we have,
Because before, when someone lived there, as you know, why you had on the spot
Yep.
patrol.
Yep.
And now, go down there and try and find
we
them.
You
understand.
got those fancy gates on down there now. Seen those?
yeah,
Why,
I'm responsible for those.
okay, well, so why can't a person use their driver's license to access those areas after hours to get in those gates?
Because Scott, we've always had gates there, even, they're both, we always have.
No,
I worked there in 1997 when I worked the 7 to 3 shift and I would go out with a padlock. I would go out with a padlock and lock the gates myself every night. We have always restricted access for people in the park after 10 o'clock at night.
You can be on that lake after 10 o'clock.
You can be on the lake,
And you can get
but in the park access back there, you can't.
Once you get on the lake, you can go anywhere you want on the park.
Well, you have to have a motorized vehicle. You still get,
Well-
it's still against the law. You would get ticketed back in the park if you were back there. If you got off your boat after 11 o'clock hours, you would be ticketed.
we have bigger problems with the
Yeah.
park than that. We have bigger
We have-
problems
we have
with that. Here's the problem. My gripes with the DNR is they're like, these residents need a lot of rehab or whatever. They never asked for any money to rehab them. I'm sure we would have given them there. So this is a DNR's problem and the DNR is screwing this up massively.
Okay, and then we got a Gifford, State Park down on Gifford Road. We got the Smiths Reserve out here. I mean, they don't, maybe zero almost.
Understood. It's.
Well,
I mean, we spend a lot of money there. Our tax dollars go there. But we don't seem to get our share over here on the west
Well,
side.
they just put $1.9 million into the campground.
After how many years?
I would disagree, Scott. One, we just did a major dredging operation, which was tens of millions of dollars to
Took
improve the
years to get
aquatic
that
there.
done, Dan.
What's that?
Took years to get that done.
Well, yeah, and that's an Oxborough Lake.
I
It
understand.
doesn't just happen overnight. Like, we have to constantly rehab down there. As Brent said, we had a multi-million-dollar camping ground that we all
Should've
fought
been there
putting
20
down
years
there.
ago.
The West Road is being rehabbed right now as well. There's a lot of, I'm probably one of the biggest advocates going back to I will for that park. But to say that we haven't done anything up here for
I
the
didn't
park,
say anything.
well, that's what's being alluded to.
No, I'm just saying, take care of what you got.
What?
We have three
Oh,
to
Scott.
400, we have $300 to $400 million of bird maintenance
Bird
in
maintenance.
Iowa.
Yep.
Right now, we're sitting on $300 to $400 million worth of projects. The national park thing that's just south of Interstate 2980, that is now in the city's hands, down there, has all the
Trail Center.
trails, yeah, okay, so basically I walked in that, since I've been in the legislature, it had a copper roof on it, it was stolen.
Cashed in.
And there was water running down the walls. I went to the state and asked, and it's on our deferred maintenance. And the problem I have is, and if that is part of that, it may be also that it's on deferred maintenance because when those, we have so many, I mean, like, let's get rid of the things that we don't have, that we're never gonna fix because we're paying tax. I mean, we could be getting tax money off this land. We have all these, take the Glenwood Resource Center. We have all these places with buildings, the Iowa School for the Deaf, and just look at that. I don't know how much undeferred maintenance they have there. So it's a state issue that needs to be addressed. I pushed it for years, that the money that we put in RIF is the
Rebuild Iowa infrastructure.
Right, yeah, that is supposed to go for deferred maintenance. And every year they find a way that they can build new buildings with it, but we're not taking care of the old buildings. Number one, that's a big problem. Number two, we have 7 pages of tax credits on the books in Iowa. There's a lot of the tax credits we don't even use. I think all tax credits should be thrown in a bag, drawn out number 1 through 5 on them. And every 5 years, we address them and either renew a tax credit or get rid of it. Because why do we have tax credit that nobody's using? So, I mean, there's a whole lot of things that the state needs to work on too, that we push every year. And, we're gonna continue to push it, but the deferred maintenance is a huge issue. The DNR is a huge issue when it comes to the rivers. I have actually many times, the Corps of Engineers has all this land they have out here, and the Iowa DNR is managing it. They will not tell us how much they get for managing the federal ground, and the Iowa DNR will not tell us. And we've wrote bills to make them prove to us what they're getting, and they will not do it. So the DNR is like a secret society sometimes that needs to be looked at more closely, and I think this plays into the whole thing that we have.
Federal. Yeah, no,
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
the Iowa DNR seems like it's its own animal and we don't have much say over it. And it's hard to look
So,
inside of it.
so that committee's gonna address that.
Yeah,
So that's.
That building at this point, I was in there about 2 months ago. It's pretty much shot.
yeah.
It needs to be.
Same way in Wabansie, they had one down there.
I want to move to another subject, the fuel tax.
Yep.
We can never keep up with roads. Little cities can't keep up with roads. Big cities can't keep up with roads. Now we've got electric cars. What are they paying?
So electric cars, and thanks, Brian, I'm gonna challenge you here in just a minute on a positive way. Electric cars pay a higher registration. We made that change a few years ago precisely for that there. And this is a national issue. If you look at every state road use tax wise, I mean, because of the fuel efficiency of vehicles being lighter, and then as well as moving to EVs, all the road use money's pretty much out there. They're all born out of old formulas. It's pretty much plateaued. And if you look out 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to start to see a drop in all that, right? So that's where, and this is where my challenge to you all is that there are some ideas out there, maybe try to find ways to modernize the road use tax fund and how those monies go into there a little bit. But that's something that Tim and I talked about last year a little bit. So that's something I would like to see ISAC take as affirmative positions, as opposed to constantly being an organization of no, or constantly the state screws up this, or why doesn't the state do that? Bring ideas to the table. Because when we have organizations that actually bring ideas to the table and create a ground movement, I do believe that there are opportunities to do further modernization of that road use tax fund. Because what's that?
ISAC got a new leader.
Yeah,
So
because 68% of those monies for every penny you pay goes to cities and counties. And so that's where,
It's a jobs creation.
yep. I mean, it's not so much that, it's just pure economics. We have to have roads to have commerce here in the state.
Or create flying cars.
Yeah, and that's where I just say, when we talk about property taxes coming full circle here, all these things need to be on the table if we're really going to crack some eggs and make an omelet here on this, right? But consistently, what we see from the League of Cities and ISAC and Smith's organizations will sit back. We're going to train our sites and start playing whack-a-mole at the county circus and start knocking things down, as opposed to, hey, we agree this system is too bad or it's too complicated. There's a way to re-engineer all this and plateau into the next one. So you absolutely have an open ear with your Ways and Means chair in this room right here on that. And I would just challenge you to work with like something that we are actively having conversations on internally. How do we prepare for that next 10, 15 years? Because those monies are going down. But as opposed to us constantly having to drag issues up to the plate and over the finish line. It'd be certainly nice to have some organizations like who actually recognize that out there as to, hey, how can we come together and support something?
Well, F&B is just as big.
What was that?
F&B is just about as big. Farm Bureau.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
No.
So.
but that's where like,
It's not
yeah,
all, cities, League of Cities or ISAC.
no, but
No.
But I'm
F&B,
thinking an
F&B might
opportunity.
be just as equal,
Yeah.
if not bigger.
no, I'm taking it as the opportunity
Right,
to
no,
be
I
part of the table.
understand.
That's why I
I
say I
understand.
challenge, because this is where I want to come today. It's like, this is what we hear. These are the problems out there, as opposed to, like I said, literally, my goal, working with Chairman Coffin, how we go about, there's probably a bunch of bills out there, to be frank, but really to start off some products and start to work through stuff. It might not all get done in 1 year, but just having seen how House File 7 to 18 went in 23, and then when we went back to the transparency bill back in 2019 as well, it just seems to be like a position from a lot of organizations of resist, kill, resist, defeat, as opposed to we're all hearing it too from our constituents. How are we going to rebuild this?
I hear weekly about the roads.
Yep.
And I know our engineer roads are really doing a good job, but you just can't keep up.
You got to
And I
get the
remember
corn
they
to,
press it. No matter what we done, we didn't have enough.
yep, you got to get the corn to an elevator. You got to get,
Yep.
your kids to school, and you got to get to your job. And that's all done by roads. I mean, that's how commerce is achieved here.
Public safety, all
Yep.
service by road.
Who sets the legal limit, weight limit for commercial truck tractors?
Federal
Oh.
government.
Feds.
Fed,
Feds.
the state of Iowa signed up, when they first signed up, I think it was, I don't know how many years ago, when the interstate system was going in, to be a 80,000 pound state for road use, okay? So I get this,
90,000.
On
No.
federal,
on federal, on the interstate, it's only 80.
Right.
Now, if you would have signed up for 90, you would have been 90, but we're 80. So the state has to go back and renegotiate with the federal government, because what we have is a transportation issue. So the Blair people want to come down to go to Bungie and everything south of Council Bluffs. They cannot come down with the loads that they have in Nebraska, because they're permitted to go to, close to 90,000 on their roads and stuff, because we are only allow 80. So they have to come the back roads. We only have a 5 mile inside to the, so you can only come 5 miles from another state without having to have, IFTA and all that crap, right? So that really needs to be extended a little bit too. But what the problem is they have to come all the way down from Blair and that way on their county and state roads, and then come across the Missouri River to come over to our plants because of that. And I'm getting a bigger push all the time from people wanting us to move to 90 on our interstate highways. I think all the new bridges on our interstate highways are over. I think they're 90 or plus. And I think that it has to go to the state renegotiating with the Fed if that's even possible. So that's one of the issues we're seeing with that. And I don't know how we can fix that, but the governor can give you a proclamation during harvest. We can take it up to 89,000, and that's
I
what
think that
happens.
would help a lot in an issue that I'm dealing with, and the issue that I'm dealing with is in Walnut, Iowa, their historic brick Main Street infrastructure. That road is a farm to market road with big truck tractors going down there, and it's basically destroying their brick Main Street. Because, and especially with the scale that's open up on the interstate, when that's open, those truck tractors go south. They find different ways to get to Bungie or wherever they're going to go. If it was 90,000 pounds, then that would eliminate that problem, on the interstate. But certainly Walnut's historic infrastructure needs to be preserved.
With the
Then it's about
90,000 pounds,
96.
we're destroying a lot of roads in Iowa. I mean, us raising that limit destroys a lot of roads in Iowa. So I mean, that's the double-edged knife, right? So you want it, but then it comes at a cost to everybody, so.
Well, they allowed the fuel transport facility down here to pull out 90,000 and head back down Veterans Memorial Highway. And they have for years. I don't know what the reciprocity agreement is, but they can come over here and get fuel and go up and down with that. Have you heard anything about the Corps of Engineers or the wanting to eliminate the barge? Who was the group?
The Corps of Engineers.
No, it was
Coast Guard.
Coast Guard.
Yes.
Sorry.
Barges going north of Council Bluffs.
There's a big fight going on about right now.
Yeah, are we, the state involved in that? then?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, there's a lot going on with that right now, and as far as your 90,000, I think it would benefit our state completely if we could get to a 90,000 on our interstates. Do you know that when containers come in on trains into Iowa, that they can only be loaded, those containers, to 80,000 because that's our road limit? Whereas the containers in Nebraska can be loaded to 90,000. So, I mean, if you have, most of the loads don't come into Iowa, they come into Iowa Interstate now, but
Right.
a lot of them come in, but we're losing 10,000 pounds. That's costing us more to ship too. So there's a whole lot of issues with it, yeah.
Can you guys address the CO2 pipeline issue? Are you guys dealing with any of that as we speak? Oh,
I mean, that is gonna be an issue up there. Nothing that, I mean, there's other people there that are,
Right now it's in litigation.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
in litigation.
it's in litigation at the state level.
It's not moving forward at this.
Well, everything's moving forward. I mean, it's the lawsuits are trying to take it away. It's moved forward. It did pass in Iowa, but it was allowed by the Iowa Utilities Board, but there's litigation and there's litigation in South Dakota. They haven't not approved a path yet. This ethanol plant close to you here, they're gonna go into the Missouri River and connect into Nebraska. So it may be the first ethanol plant that if South Dakota gets their, stuff together, it'll be the first ethanol plant in Iowa that'll be able to get hooked up and not have to go through the fight they're going through in Iowa. But, that's ongoing process. 90-some% of the easements that they need in Potawatomi County have been, that has been taken care of. Yeah, it's paid, they've done it. So, I mean, Pot County isn't an issue. There's an issue a little bit from the plant in Shenandoah where it comes through Mills County, but that's the only fight I've seen in the area about it. And like I said, Sire Ethanol is gonna cross the river
The Corps
and
gonna let them go on top or underneath?
they're going to the river.
Under?
Yeah.
The Corps gonna let them on?
That's my understanding right now. They have a path. They've been, down there. SHPO's been in Mills County, marking where that track is. So they're looking for Indian artifacts right now. So
Darn.
Well, I appreciate your efforts.
Yep.
Property tax is probably a good thing to take a look at. I think all of us are burdened too much by that. But we're here to help.
I
I
got,
was gonna say, have we done anything good?
Well,
Yeah.
Oh, come on now.
I can tell you the exemptions that put into place the last couple of years with, the veterans and seniors.
No, yeah, it's good.
I appreciate that. I signed up for the senior discount. I don't get it yet. But, when you don't backfill those, as tight of a budget as we run here in Pot County, we lose that revenue. We gotta make it up somewhere because we're not getting it from you. And like I said, it's property tax is the most unfair tax in this country. The person that doesn't, your income is not an issue. It's the value of your house. So you pay more in taxes than I do in Pot County. You pay more of Mary Ann's salary than I do. Or, that call for 911, you're paying more for that call versus me. So it's just not a fair tax. And, anything you could do to, lessen that burden, I'm in favor of.
Susan?
one other thing on the carbon, was told by Iowa Geological, they came over and met with me and the Iowa Flood Center a while back, that there's going to be you're going to see a well derrick at Mid-America Energy, South Council Bluffs. And they're going to dig 5,000 foot and connect and be able to put their carbon down there. So they're either planning on building a natural gas plant or trying to get rid of more of the CO2 from the coal plant, put it underground. So there's a lot going on with carbon, and it's just the pipeline. It's, a lot larger issue that we all have to we're gonna have to manage it because the world's demanding it, so we're gonna have to store our carbon somewhere, so.
Is that gonna go into Mills County too then, Dave?
What's that?
That underground storage? Does it?
Well, it's 5,000 foot down. It's gonna go into the rock structure down there is what they're gonna do. They're gonna collect the CO2 down there, and that's gonna be Mid-America's doing that. They got a federal grant.
They got property in Mills County, don't they?
Yeah, they got a federal grant to do that, but it's gonna go into their rock structure.
Federal grant to do
Yeah,
it?
they got they're paying for
11
part.
million, isn't it?
What?
11 million.
It's quite a bit. It's gonna be a big,
And the state of, or Iowa State University is gonna be involved in that, correct?
well, the University of Iowa is where the flood center and Iowa Geological is out of, so it's either gonna be a combination of the two, so yeah.
Very.
I
I
apologize,
want to
'cause
go
I've
back
got.
to Senator Dan.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I've got
go,
to
Josh.
stop at 11. I've got.
No, that's fine. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for coming in, John.
The one thing that I would leave you with, and Tim's done a pretty good job, is honestly, the best way that this can work is with constant communication from you guys to us. And so anything that you see that's on the agenda on any one of the committee assignments that we're in, subcommittees, when we're going to the vote, please reach out to us and give us your input so we can help you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Josh.
Very much.
Yep.
So Senator Dan, when we talked about budgeting for this year and the impacts of the Senate File 718, are we still going to have the postage requirement to mail out the property tax statements that we scrambled to send out last March that people didn't understand? I'm assuming we're sending those again this March.
Yeah, yes, but I'll asterisk it. And we all took the vote. I'm not going to defer that. That was I'll just say this, I've always been open to having discussion on those. I think there's a lot of different ideas out there we could do. To answer your question, yes, unless something changes. And I have told multiple entities out there that I'm open for a discussion on that. I'll also say my viewpoint is that if we have a revenue restrictor on that 810-350 levy of yours, I think that those statements become less important in some ways. I would also say that there might be other opportunities out there, like online, have someone to log in as opposed to going through the burden of mailing all those things out. So I would plan those things going out unless something changes in the meantime. I do know that there's a lot of people are looking at that there, but I just don't have any visibility of what that really wasn't something that I was leading the charge on. So I've kind of challenged those individuals who did want that on both sides to, okay, come back with different solutions. So,
Yeah, there's always cause and effect whenever.
They wanted transparency, but look what we got, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that it, really? That's
Yeah.
basically, yeah.
More confusion and.
Yeah,
more
yeah,
cost
yeah,
and-
yeah.
Wasn't written real well.
well, and I think part of the problem too is that some states do it, but what was discovered afterwards is that the computer systems in this state are not like the other states. So I think for people that really were leading the charge on that, like, oh, well, this state did it, this state did it. In those states, someone looks at their actual value of their house and they can see actually what's going on. But I think that was kind of discovered after the fact, like, oh, these local valuations, this doesn't all input into the computers the way it does. So that's where I've kind of challenged everyone, like, all right, I appreciate the intent, but now we've just, I don't know. Like I said, that's one of the things that I really have no problem with us setting to the side, reforming, whatever. Yep.
At least needs reformed.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
maybe each of the auditors from all of the
And-
counties can reply back with 3 suggestions
Right.
on how that tool can be more
Yep.
valuable.
Think about it though. I mean, is what we talked about earlier, as complicated as our system is,
Yeah.
it's hard to direct that onto a piece of paper and make any sense of it. And that's what happened, isn't it? It's this, isn't that what you're trying to say? It's just a mess. Yeah.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
Are we gonna have to budget to
Yeah.
send out a statement that says nothing
Yeah.
again? Or is it gonna actually be worth the postage that's going?
I'm all for getting rid of it till we
Yeah.
figure it out.
And Frank, that's where
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, this would be a
Well,
house
pause it, like-
conversation,
Like
I
Dan
think.
said, let's pause it. Yeah.
I got one more question for
Yeah.
something near and dear to my heart. Trails. It's proven that it's an economic development. What is the future of trails funding from the state of Iowa?
Well, for the last three years, we've been putting $2.5 million out of RIF funding into it, which is an increase from 1.5 million. So I think that's a good amount. It's never enough, but I think you'll continue to see that. We've used RIF funding the last 3 years to put $6 million to deferred maintenance for state parks and $2.5 million into trails. I think you'll see that continue. Having said that, the RIF money will be a little bit less because of the Nebraska casinos, but I don't think the impact's going to be as great as everybody says it will be, but there'll be an impact there. but that's near and dear to my heart too, and that's two of the things I will continue to push for is to maintain that funding.
We have a national trail that's gonna go
Right.
from Washington DC to Washington State, right through
Yep.
our neighborhoods.
Yep, I'm aware, yeah, and so,
It's really, the funding has gone nuts in the last 4 years.
Mhm.
You know, the price of cement is doubled.
yeah, no, it's,
Everything about it is doubled, so.
well, it was good, we went from 1.5 million to 2.5 million, but that just basically accounts for the inflation and so on.
Everybody's doing it.
But, that national trail is great to be a part of, so we'll continue to push for that.
Maybe we can get Grassley and Ernst to handle that.
I'm trying to get a trails rest area on the, I fought with the state for years about our 2 rest areas south of Council Bluffs.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, you guys spend all the money everywhere else on all these rest areas. We got the crappiest rest areas. in town." So the first one, I didn't get there in time. It's an indigenous people rest area. I don't know if you've been to the northbound lane on I-29.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all about indigenous people and where it came from, because Mills County has some more, probably our county historical museum has more Indian artifacts than about anywhere else in the state.
Huh.
And anyway, so the push is, I've been pushing to have a Trails Museum in the southbound because of Lewis and Clark, Underground Railroad, all the Class A carriers, everything we have here. Want to tie it into the trail system and have, connect the bike trails all the way around Omaha, all the way through Council Bluffs, all the way down to the new bridge, and then bring it back across. And that's something that we've been trying to work on down there, so.
Wow,
Okay.
good. We haven't seen that, but,
Well, I pushed them, I can only push so much on,
Right, right,
that
right.
rest area when they
Yeah.
redo it, so.
the DOT, right?
Yeah, but we have a lot of things, all this stuff that, all the trails that, that's where the railroads first came across. This is, everything is, it's a huge place to have a trails museum,
More the
so,
Mormons and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
One last question for you, Dan, if I can.
Sure,
TIF
yeah,
legislation. TIF legislation, is
Yeah.
that in your alleyway?
I know Brent and Josh have a bill. I know there's some discussions out
Agreed.
there. That is a door that is open to me. I'm not actively working on anything at this point in time here, only because some of the other things are such bigger topics. But it's something that is definitely in the mix this session.
What about, there's perpetual TIFs out there. Will that be part of the legislation?
I'm not even that far yet. I think, from the initial conversations, it's just, some of the required allocations in TIF and like when you have the valuations there. I know that is always a conversation, the perpetual ones out there. Again, like I'm just a lot further down the actual system reform, but you can't talk property taxes without TIF. So again, I'm open to that conversation, kind of like the mailings as well too. It's just not at the forefront of my work priority, but if people bring some stuff to me and we'll kind of work through that throughout session, totally, the door is open on that one too, just like the mailers.
the city has a specific request relating to green fields that have been in the city over 20 years, blah, blah, blah. And it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is, once you do that, it opens up the door to TIF and everything else with it.
Oh.
And so that's, it remains to be seen how much will get done, but it's gonna be a topic whether or not we move on anything.
But
TIF is so important to growth, especially the small
Yeah,
towns.
no, I agree.
Council Bluffs on down.
But a perpetual TIF.
Oh,
That-
yeah.
Well, that's what I mean.
that-
Once you open
that
it
is
up,
what
yeah.
it's designed
Walnut.
for.
It gets renewed.
Yes,
If we have a
Trust me.
chance of losing
Yep.
we
revenue.
used it and it worked well.
well, I'm saying Walnut citywide, I mean, that's, to Tim's point there are some abuses out there.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing, any TIF, absolutely strong economic tool, but the state does cover all the cost on that. So when we have, and Iowa has more TIF districts than any other state in the nation. So it does beg to have a conversation. Do we need to reevaluate, are all these developments really urban blight like it was initially, or have we, it's not the thing that these aren't bad projects, but really in kind of, the question, I mean, they do need to be looked at there, just, I'm not sure what's gonna fit on all the other
We'll
stuff.
say that TIF has grown each of our little towns in our county well.
Well, yeah, but there's other examples where,
It's been
It's
used
been
badly.
abused, I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
it.
and those.
Coralville.
Coralville.
I
Coralville.
don't know how many perpetual ones there are in the state, but there's probably more than I want to know. But that was definitely a correction to be made when they got rid of, they're doing those.
And that's a form of property tax, relief. getting rid of perpetual tips.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I really appreciate your time. I
Thanks,
hope-
you guys.
Hope you don't think and take it like we were beating up on you.
Oh,
Scotty,
no,
you're always beating up on.
Yeah,
me.
we're just that.
Yeah, we've been 9 years now. I think we know that.
Yeah,
We
No,
can
it's
handle
fine.
it.
No. And what you're doing here is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
a positive conversation, and I don't think enough counties do that, and that's why ISAC has some of that reputation.
Well, the ISAC thing, I mean, we'll talk about that offline because they've been a little discouraged for
Yeah,
me,
so-
so.
But
Your
no, we appreciate it.
legislative copies, people, some days you go in there and there's a lot of people, then you go to the next one, there's hardly anybody there.
That's the ones I like the best.
For us, the chamber is doing 4 or 5. He sent us some emails about it, but I don't think the first one's till February. But, the chamber is gonna do the ones down at Wilson again, so
So when do you guys get sworn in?
Monday.
We get sworn in, then we get sworn at. That's how it works.
I'm heading to Des Moines when I'm done here to find my apartment. Yeah, I gotta get in my apartment.
Okay.
I appreciate your
You-
continued support of Plan One for county organization.
Yep. I like your newsletters, so keep them coming.
If there is
Please.
legislation that comes on the Plan One side, Dan and, Dave and Brent, just make it say that if a county's voted on it in the last
Oh.
15 years, they're not included in the legislation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, there will always be some legislation out there on that. It's always started like 125 above the pot. It's kind of primarily Eastern Iowa thing, but thanks for reminding me of that, Tim, because we do that.
And that
There needs to
Farm
be
Bureau
cleaned up on
pushes
that
that. Farm
Yeah.
Bureau's a big pusher on that.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
My mom, who grew up a strong Democrat, thought that every bill should be revoted on at a certain number of years because they expire out. Some of them expire out, and
Hmm.
I always thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, that's somewhat what Doge is gonna.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say this though, Brian, once in a while, you don't want us around that long, so.
We can move to New
Well,
Hampshire. Every bill in New Hampshire gets voted on. Every bill introduced gets to committee and voted on. Every bill. It's crazy. I couldn't believe it when they told me that. Every bill
But-
gets a vote.
Does it work?
You tell me.
Move to New Hampshire.
Sorry.
They have
I'm
four,
an-
and they
I'm
have
an Iowa
400,
boy.
they
I'm
have
staying
400
here.
members in the
Well,
House.
if we have a bill that can't make it out of subcommittee, it pretty much doesn't need to go anywhere. So, I mean,
Yeah, no, I
especially that we
agree, I
have
agree.
2,000 of them, right? So.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
coming.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
See you at the coffees.
Hey, Dan, Dan?
Yeah.
Dan. Oh, Suzanne, will you?
Yeah, you did. It started January.
Yes.
Thank you.
10 bucks per. Yep.
Bye, guys.
You're good, you're good, you're good.
See you, Brent.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yep,
Dave, thanks for coming.
yep, appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
It was good.
I do too.
Dave, you might want to sit around. We've got Advanced Southwest Iowa that's going to be making a presentation.
Now what?
I'm gonna rural development.
Okay, I can. Yeah, I gotta call my wife. She's gonna wait. How long is this gonna take? I have a
Not
phone
very-
conference at 2 or 1 or 12 o'clock and I gotta be on for an hour and a half about the Missouri River. So,
Oh, I don't think.
We
we'll go that
should
long.
be fine.
okay, good. All right, I'll sit. Text my wife.
Okay. Recognition of January 9th, 2005 as National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Who's it? Okay, for Jay and Jordan.
You got a proclamation?
Yeah, proclamation. That's a proclamation. Clark County Board of Supervisors proclamation.
We're gonna be about our 15 minutes, all right?
National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, January 9th, 2025, whereas the health and safety of the citizens of Potawatomi County, Iowa is important to the happiness, prosperity, and well-being of our counties, families, and communities. And whereas Pot County, Iowa is the home of dedicated law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line to keep our county safe, and whereas These officers stand as leaders and teachers, educating the community about the importance of public safety. And whereas Pot County, Iowa appreciates the extraordinary efforts and sacrifices made by the law enforcement and their family members on a daily basis in order to protect our schools, workplace, roadways, and homes. And whereas National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day is an opportunity to show our support for law enforcement. Now therefore it be resolved that the Potawatomi County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims January 9th, 2005 as National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in Potawatomi County, Iowa. Then we have a roll call vote dated the 7th day of January 2025.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller,
Aye.
Supervisor Shea,
Aye.
Supervisor Jorgensen.
Aye.
Okay, I'm gonna send this around. I'm gonna give this to you. Yeah, sure. You're the only law enforcement here, I think. If you don't mind.
And I'll make sure to get it to the sheriff.
We need to get a picture.
I see. I think I'm.
You good?
Thank
you.
I already fixed my hair.
Which call?
Thank you.
Kristen's gonna take a picture.
Okay. Let's stand up.
Are you guys
Well,
gonna
hold
stand
on.
up?
Yeah, hold on just a second. Mary Ann needs to sign that too.
Okay.
Well, it feels good to stand up.
Somebody like poke him aside or something might.
You want me to come back there?
Right.
Yeah, we can come down there, come on.
No, it's okay.
You
We don't- we don't-
Yeah, right, yeah.
can have Mary Ann shake your hand when she hands it to you.
Yeah. I can go in there. Here's me
Thank
getting
you.
up too early. The excitement just started.
I guess Scott would stop talking.
Jeez.
All right, I got a good one. Thanks, Kristen. Thank you for your
Thank you.
service.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, Sam.
Sam, thanks.
Yep.
You can share that with everybody.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next up, Paula Hazelwood, CEO, and Shalimar, Manager of Rural Development, Advanced Southwest Iowa Corporation. Presentation and brief update from Advanced Southwest Iowa Corp on the activities and update. Welcome aboard, ladies.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Healthy.
Let me get my notes teed up here. So this is going to be, as you know, we try to come in at least on a quarterly basis to give you an update on our economic development activity for the city of Council Bluffs and specifically the rural communities in Potawatomi County. So I'm going to go over the main part of our 2024 end of year review, and then I'm going to turn it over to Shalimar to more specifically talk about the rural communities. The first thing I want to do is thank Supervisor Miller. I really appreciate your leadership and guidance. The past year, you were always there answering phone calls and text messages, so I really appreciate that. And then obviously, congratulations Supervisor Belt for being elected to the chair position. I was thinking back, Scott, I think you were, when I first took this job, I think you were either chair or your incoming chair, one or the other at that time.
Been here a long time.
Yes, yes. So thank you for your continued service.
Thank you.
And I also want to thank Supervisor Wickman. He actually has spent a lot of time serving on Advances Board over the course of the last 6 years. And he officially departs, or has departed, I guess, as I've been told, as our secretary. He actually served as our chairperson for a couple of years as well, so thank you. And then obviously for Supervisor Shea, thank you for your ongoing support, Shea. Had to take my glasses off so I could see it. And then Mary Ann, it's good to see you back in elected position. So congratulations. The advanced staff, obviously, without the support of our investors, we have 3 primary investors, as I think all you know, and then about 20 private investors that support the work that we do in economic development. the city, the county, and the Iowa West Foundation are our three primary investors. And then again, 20 various industries across Potawatomi County that support what we do, just so you know that. But we would not be able to do what we do without the support of each and every one of you. So I want to just take a minute to thank all of the supervisors for your ongoing support and continued advancement as we work to do the work that we do in economic development. So just real quickly, some highlights from 2024 for the entire advanced team. So consistently between our urban, rural, and entrepreneurial projects, we maintain between 50 and 60 projects in our active pipeline, which is a lot. We ended 2024 with 56 active projects. Obviously, that means we're continuing to work with those projects to hopefully bring those to reality and either expand an existing business and or locate a new market company. In addition, let's see. We also conducted 355 project and business meetings, which is a lot. Most of those were in person, since thankfully we're back to in-person meetings. But some of those, I will tell you, we have a lot of out-of-state clients right now. So the ability to actually have meetings with them on a consistent basis virtually has been, if anything came out of COVID, that actually was a godsend that came out of COVID for us anyways, and a money saver. And to add on to that. In addition, our kitchen council, as you know, we oversee the kitchen council at the Pace Center, engaged with 61 food entrepreneurs. They onboarded 6 new members. Their current membership sits at 17. The facility, when it was designed, it was slated to hold 20 food entrepreneurs. Again, we're at 17. Which is almost the highest that we've ever been at since the beginning of that program started. We were fortunate this year to apply for and be awarded a capacity building grant from the Iowa West Foundation. We're basically going to assess and restructure the recruitment, onboarding, the success tracking, assistance, and exit strategies for members to make sure that we're serving that program and the members well, and make sure that they have a clear and successful path moving forward as they transition out of the facility. Nikki Ferguson, our manager of entrepreneurial development, was able to raise $20,000 in prize money again for our Rev Pitch competition, which, if you're not familiar, is an entrepreneurial competition where people pitch for prize money, entrepreneurs pitch for prize money, and it's held in partnership with TS Bank. We have been working with TS Bank and partnering with them for the last 5 years, and consistently that has grown over the years. The attendance has grown, the number of applications has grown, and I expect that will continue moving forward. And then after a brief delay, we have continued our fund development for our new co-working space, which is the space is at 20 Arena Way. We've currently raised about 800,000 of the 1.8 that is necessary to bring that project to reality. We have a number of presentations scheduled in this month, January, and then in early February. And we're really hoping to be able to commence the construction of that in Q2 of this year. One of the biggest things we do is relationship building, and we've actually made 50 plus referrals to some of our partner organizations, which is Small Business Development Center, Nebraska Enterprise Fund, obviously Iowa Western Community College, and many of our local lending and real estate brokerage firms. We presented collectively as a team at 40 different community meetings. We coordinated and or hosted about 35 different events with and or training opportunities. And then Shalimar is going to expand on these two more in depth, but continued our Rural Potawatomi County Infrastructure Coalition initiative, which, if you guys all remember, the Board of Supervisors partnered with Iowa West Foundation to approve some funding through ARPA. And then Iowa West matched that for our rural infrastructure improvements. And then we actually had our first round of successful vibrant rural communities. We refer to it as VIBE, which is the Iowa West Foundation grant cycle for rural communities. So a lot of focus on our rural communities, which was the former cities program, if you guys remember. We are still, however, streamlining some of the process. I would say we will continue to work on that as we move forward. And Shalimar will touch a little bit on that. So what does this all mean? So partnership, passion, and shared goals, they're really important to us, and that's kind of part of our mission. We definitely do not work on every single economic development project in the city of Council Bluffs or Potawatomi County. There's a lot of great things happening in and around, our area. And, you know, we work on probably a large percentage of them, but certainly not every one of them. We only report, when I come to you and report, and Shell comes to you and report only on the projects that we work on directly and had something to do with the outcome. Hopefully a successful outcome. So in 2024, we ended the year with 14 landed projects, which was a mix of both new to market and expansion projects of our existing businesses. The capital investment amount is 110 million, 110.4 million, and 264 retained and or created net new jobs. So I always like to highlight this because it speaks volumes in a lot of ways. So we're part of the Greater Omaha Economic Development Partnership, which is an 8-county regional partnership. They only landed, the whole partnership landed 17 projects. 14 of those were ours. So if that tells you anything. We work our projects hard. We have a very thoughtful follow-up, follow-through system, relationship building that equates to success. The overall capital investment that they have is 155.7. Again, ours was 110.4 million of that. 375 new retained jobs for the full partnership, and ours is 264. So if you do the percentages of that, about 82% of the landed projects were advances. About 70% of the capital investment and 70% of the job creation. Now, they had a slow year, I will say that. We did not. We kept trucking along. And again, we work our projects a little bit differently than the other partners do. And that's something that I'm extremely proud of. I've been trying to get them to capture our model, all of them, and use it. Some of them have, some of them may in the future, but it's always good for the region. If one community does well, the rest do well. And it's just, you know, if a company locates to Omaha, we'll get, you know, a certain amount of a percentage of those folks that will live in Council Bluffs, vice versa. So whatever's good for the region. So however we can build on those successes is important to the entire team. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit just briefly about Council Bluffs projects, because as you all know, you know, I run the organization, but I primarily only focus on projects specific to the city of Council Bluffs. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about a couple of entrepreneurial ones that Nikki actually worked on since she could not join us today. So the first one, I think Brett Sechrist mentioned this one when he was here. So Acadia on 24th and Richard Downing was a project that I worked on. I think I actually started working on it in mid 2023 or early 2023. They officially had their groundbreaking ceremony this year. They are in partnership with Jenny Edmondson. I think he said CHI, but they're in partnership actually with Jenny Edmondson. It is a new to market project, a 90,000 square foot mental health and substance abuse facility, which again, talking about health and human services is largely needed. It's about a $64.5 million investment, 145 new jobs. We assisted directly with site identification, connections obviously to the city as it relate to building permits and such, and then more specifically, the local and state incentives that the project was eligible for, excuse me. Barton Solvents is located on 9th Avenue. They're existing, obviously. This is a retention expansion project for us. They just put up a new 5,000 square foot office building. Capital investment about 1.6 million in investment, and SAM assisted them with connections with the city. I actually referred the general contractor to them that they ended up using, which was good. We did talk about incentives, but their corporate declined putting forth incentives. So the building is up. You can see it. It kind of sits along their fence line on 9th Avenue. So if you're going by there, take a look at that. Nestry Park is a California-based developer that we've been working with for a number of years. They actually had the Iowa Western Community College, the 90-acre parcel that's east of the campus under option for a number of years. And he finally closed on that property in September of last year, which was a long time coming. I will just tell you that. It was about a $10 million investment that he made to purchase that. And then I have helped him, with the end user that we're now working with, which the end user is a technology-based firm, and they actually closed on their property. Thankfully, again, it's been a long time coming, on January 3rd, of this year. So I'll be talking more about that project as it actually develops and comes to light, and I'll be able to share a little bit more specifics in what that is going to develop into. We assisted them with pretty much everything in the gamut of economic development, site issues, uh, um, connections, power with Mid-American Energy, and certainly, connections within the city structure, in community development and public works. And then this is one of my favorite ones. Leading Edge is a company that, is a laminating binding operation that was located on 7th Avenue. So I started working with them. So he operates out of a building that his father also operates a business out of, and his side of the equation needed to expand. And so I knew that Echo Electric was moving out of their space at Sherwood because they built a new facility on 192nd Street. And so I connected them, Leading Edge, with the owner of the Sherwood property, which is Jay Cathell, in case any of you guys know him, and did a tour. They were still in the facility, but they were really nice and let us come in and take the tour, and it all actually worked. Echo moved into their new facility. Leading Edge moved out of their 7th Avenue into the Sherwood property. And then, the other company that operates on 7th Avenue he has room to expand his business. So that project actually came full circle, and it's a true testament of our good existing businesses that we have here in Council Bluffs and Potawatomi County. TSL is a transload or transmodal, company. You probably see their trucks going up and down the highway a lot. They own,
One of the biggest ones.
yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly correct. Yes. So I've been working with them for a number of years. They needed to relocate, from their Omaha/Carter Lake offices, and facilities, to find a better, access to the interstate. And so, Virgil Anderson owned a piece of property directly off of the interstate. They were able to negotiate with them, purchase that property. And so we just landed this year, phase 1, which was 11.5 million, about 5 new equivalent employees. Helps with everything from incentives to grants, to city connections, and they will have a phase 2 of this project as well. That'll be about triple the capital investment that I just talked about. 2 of the projects that Nikki worked on that she's really proud of, Frosted Pine, she worked from them from basically start until they opened, which is the new coffee shop that sits in the, parking lot of Sherwood Plaza.
That place has a line in it.
I know.
Every time I'm by there,
Isn't
both
it great?
sides.
They worked really hard on the position of how that line was going to affect traffic coming in, and they should, right? So that there were a lot of thought was given to that aspect of, okay, if we have 10 cars, what's the stacking capacity here, and all of those things.
And
So,
cars seem slow for them.
yeah. Good. That's
Yeah,
really good to
that's
hear.
what we're looking for.
That's exactly what we're looking
Very
for.
neat.
So it is a new, coffee hut. So if you love coffee, teas, those type of things, please give them a shot in Sherwood Plaza. The investment was about 125,000. They have 1 full-time employee, but 5 part-time employees. So again, Nikki assisted with everything in connections, marketing, code, zoning, and funding avenues for them. And then another little fun project she worked on, is Lily Pops. They're new to market. They're in Trainer. They're a bakery coffee shop. The investment that they put in to bring that, to reality was about 140,000. They do have 1 full-time employee, and I'm assuming a couple of part-time employees as well. And Nikki assisted them with the variety of the things I just talked to you about. Same with Frosted Pine. So did a really good job. She's got a couple more. I have a couple more, but just, 2025, our project pipeline is really, really good right now. This year, actually, just based on what we have in the pipeline with the technology and manufacturing that we have, could very well be a record-setting year for not only us, but for the city of Council Bluffs and the county. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through the year. We're still addressing some energy demands, as you've probably seen and read. We have a lot of technology requests right now, and the Mid-American is assessing their power grid, which they should. There's a lot of, almost every project that I'm working on has a power study that's currently being conducted right now, so we're waiting on those. But we just don't rest on our laurels. I've been out looking for alternatives, and we will continue to look for alternative energy solutions. I've potentially found one that we would partner with a variety of folks, including Mid-American Energy. So I'm hoping to do some introductions here yet in January and get that ball rolling. In closing, I'm happy to answer any questions on what I just discussed before I turn it over to Shal for her role report. You would be correct, Chairman Belt, you would be correct. There's also some other, I would say, less large solutions than that, but yes, you're not wrong.
Demand is not going away.
No, you're right. It's not going to go away. It's going to keep getting more and more. So my philosophy is I would rather be proactive on the front end of it and try to figure out some solutions and versus reactive and let, those good paying jobs and the capital investment go to another community versus ours.
And I hope our power bills start going.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
There you have it.
I think
That
we'll
would
do
be
that.
lovely.
That ain't gonna
I
happen.
don't
That
think
would
it's
be
gonna happen.
lovely.
So, cities went away and now it's Vibe. The cities used to be facilitated by MAPA.
Correct.
Vibe is facilitated by you guys.
Yes.
We used to meet, I don't know if it was quarterly or whatever, but are we still doing that?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna let Shal talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember who's superintendent.
I'm-
Thank you.
You're good.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
I'll set up a meeting and we'll chat about it.
So we need that in our,
There hasn't been one lately, has there?
No, so
so do we need that?
The bus tour was the last one of 2024.
Do we need to have that in our representatives?
So we don't have you are always welcome to come, but you aren't a
I
required
know
participant.
I'm welcome to come if I don't know when it is.
Because I send you calendar invites. You guys are all on the calendar
I don't remember
invites.
it being 5 or 4 times.
So what we're doing is there are 4 meetings a year that all members are required to go to. Mitch is on one as he's the McClellan representative. And the 4 times a year the first one is in February. We're securing the dates on Friday when we meet to talk about vibrant rural communities with Iowa West Foundation. But the first one is going to be in February. The second one will be in May. The third one will be the Iowa West Foundation's Rural Summit is the required meeting. And the fourth one is the Vibrant Rural Communities Bus Tour. So
Summit is when?
we have not set a date. Usually end of September.
Wasn't that in Boca?
It was in Avoca last year, yes.
But once the dates are set, meeting calendar holds.
Yep,
go
calendar
out.
holds go out to everybody on the board and you guys will be aware of them.
That was a good meeting.
The
Avoca.
Avoca was a great meeting, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and the bus tour went very well this year too.
Yeah.
I have aspirations to mix it up a bit next year, that I need to get approved by somebody else in the room. So I think we're gonna expand on the bus tour and make it a little more, just kind of change things up to keep it interesting and keep people wanting to attend, but it was really well attended again this year. It was a great time for us to talk to DOT, USDA, and IEDA. And just kind of express what our projects are and get some, thought processes going on that. So thank you very much to everyone who attends that. Every single year, when I get back the surveys on how Vibrant Bus Tour went, I don't do survey, but I call and I ask what they would like to expand on. Every single person tells me how valuable it is to have Pot County Board of Supervisors there with them for the whole day, because they feel like they get to know you guys and talk to you and invest their time. So thank you very much for doing that.
Whenever I drive into a small town and they've got their speed limit sign flashing, it's a result of that tour.
It's a result of that tour, and that's why we were able to get those because of that. Yeah. So it does great things. We get quite a bit of recognition from it from the state too. Okay, so for 2025 in rural Potawatomi County, we had a great year. I was able to land 5 projects. I'm, for the sake of time, going to keep it short for you guys because I know you're running very long. $21.6 million in capital investment in just rural Potawatomi County. That does include Carter Lake because they're in my purview. Carter Lake had the biggest project at 15 million, Project Pineapple, and it landed 65 jobs that we took from Omaha. So always happy to see us being able to, and it was going into a dilapidated building that was not being utilized, which I also love. We had 4 grand openings and 1 groundbreaking. I will say that I am working very, very well with WIDA, with Stacy Kinney. We're getting along really great, and I think we found a great kind of mixture on how we're doing things, and we're supporting each other well, and I feel like it's going really positively. And we're able to provide those grand openings free of charge. It's been a huge asset to the companies to get more public image and get some marketing out there. And the groundbreaking with CNA Industries in Minden that is rebuilding after the tornado. They were expanding right before the tornado hit. They were going to expand. And then when the tornado hit, they decided to expand still. We were able to work with IEDA to get them some incentives, and I will officially land that project in 2025 once the building is up and we have official
They've got
numbers.
the iron.
They've got the iron up. I was just there the other day, yes. We have 22 active projects in rural Potawatomi County. Those are things that we're actively working on. I went through and kind of culled that right before we ended the year so that we're making sure that only the projects that we're actively working on stay in our pipeline. Things that, are on the back burner or haven't moved in a while get moved onto our own on hold, like Paula was saying. Some fun projects. I've had a lot of little projects this year, especially coming out in the woodwork on the later half of 2024. So there's a really cool farm to table producer that is looking for a space that I think we're going to land them in Minden in one of the new buildings in Minden, which I'm really excited to see. We're working on funding a capital stack for that and getting them into that building. That would be, and then also there's another project that we're working on bringing a cottage business. So someone that's making food and product out of their home into an actual facility. So they call those cottage businesses and then bringing it into a real facility on their own property. So we're working with the county. Matt, thank you so much for getting back to her on that. And I'm excited to see that one come through. That's Project Kimber. And then I've had quite a few businesses that have shut down and are in the process of shutting down or trying to sell that are actually getting sold and have new owners coming in. So I'm really excited to see that. That's not been something that we've seen historically work very well. But we have one project called Project Pause that's going to be transferring ownership, it looks like. And then we have another business, Jefferson Farm and Auto in Oakland. If you guys know them, they've been around for years and years and years. They finally decided to shut down just because the sons kind of wanted to do their own thing and they were ready to be done. And luckily, DeGroat Diesel that has a shop here in Oakland, had a shop in Atlantic, but he's from Oakland. So he bought it and has already opened the shop. And we're going to have a grand opening sometime in January for that. So in an effort to keep things short, like we were talking about vibrant rural communities, this is a program that we run at the behest of Iowa West Foundation to look at how we can help fund improvement projects. You guys talked a lot about deferred maintenance with these guys here. A vibrant rural communities is meant to fund improvements, not deferred maintenance. And it has to be towards economic development and making sure the town stays healthy and thriving. So that is where our main goal is. The way we structure it right now is the first meeting of the year in February, the towns bring all of their projects that they're working on, and it is the city clerks that are required to attend. So I know MAPPA previously had the cities program where they had whoever wanted to attend from their town, they got to just, while I really appreciate that, city clerks are the ones that are on boots on the ground working the projects day to day, and they're really the ones that know everything that's going on. So we've moved that into where it's the city clerks that are required to attend. They do have to make 3 out of the 4 meetings a year, and that's so that we are ensuring that everybody is participating the way they're supposed to. And the first meeting of the year in February, they will meet and talk about all of the projects they have going on in their towns. This is a way for all of them to realize that they need to look at strategic planning. They need to look at how things are going. Every town has a CIP, a continuous improvement plan. All of the projects that they're working on need to be in that. We also share, and you guys have access to a Google Doc that has every single project that gets updated monthly with every town, every city. So that has every single project that's being worked on currently. The towns have access to it. They can update what projects they're working on, and you guys have access to that and can view it at any time that you want. Through that project, in the May meeting, they will come to us and talk about what project they're thinking of applying for funding for through VIBE. And that will be discussed with the group as a whole of, oh, have you thought about this funding? Have you thought about this? We've secured McClure, I believe, for this year. I guess we haven't talked about that. But we have a engineering group that looks into all of the different grants that would be available for whatever project they're working, so that we can stack as much capital, so we can stack that project as best as we can with other granting and other funding sources that we might not be aware of. And there's also assistance in writing the grants if that would be needed as well. And then by May, they have that project decided. And then in August, July, August, I go around and meet with each town that is applying specifically, and we talk about what they've applied to, making sure their application is in order. And then September 1st, they apply. And September 1st, they do a letter of intent. September 15th, they apply officially for the program, and awards are usually end of November, beginning of December. So that's kind of where we're at. And RPC, RPCIC, everything is going well with that. Everything's on track. We had our follow-up meetings. We've expanded that spreadsheet. That's another Google Doc spreadsheet that you guys have access to at any time and can see how much has been dispersed, where the projects are, meeting notes and updates and that kind of thing.
I think Mitch had some good ideas for, we implemented some of the things that Mitch suggested. So thank you for
Yeah.
that.
We improved on the spreadsheet so that we can see disbursements a little better and just make it as clear as day for everybody. Sure, I'll resend both of those documents out to all of you.
Yeah.
Send all that stuff.
You'd rather, well, I have to send it to you to give access to your
Give it-
email.
Give access to.
I will give access to Jeanette as well.
She will.
Absolutely. Sure, not a problem.
Thank you.
And those are live documents. So if you see someone typing, it's supposed to be doing
Yeah.
that's, you can have multiple people in there at once doing things. So if you see someone typing or deleting something, don't think you got hacked. That's just how that works.
Well, one of the things too that I failed to mention in my presentation, I want to say thank you to Matt Wyatt and Pam was here, and John. We work with them on a regular basis. You guys have great staff, so I really appreciate.
They always get back to
partnership.
us. They
Yeah.
always follow up. They do a great
Good
job.
follow-up, follow-through. Yep.
Thank you. Okay,
you.
moving on. Paula Hazelwood, CEO, Advanced Southwest Iowa Corp. Discussion and or decision to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 09-2/2025 to amend Advanced Southwest Iowa's Corporation's bylaws, removal of provision in Article 10 that stipulates that Pot County Board of Supervisors must approve any alterations, amendments, repeals, or adoptions of Southwest Iowa's corporation bylaws.
Thank you. So, hoping to be brief on this. As you know, I've talked about this in a couple of the other presentations. We started down the path of obtaining our 501c3 last year. Advance as a 501c6 will remain. Our 501c3, once we get the designation, will come under us, and we'll be able to apply, obviously, for additional grant funding, probably primarily on our entrepreneurial side of the equation of the work that we do, but maybe a few other things. And so we were lucky enough to get a referral for a really good 501c3 attorney out of Des Moines, which we've been utilizing, done a lot of work here in Council Bluffs specifically. And so once we kind of started down the path, we were not sure at first if they wanted us to get rid of the C6 and just bring in the C3, but ultimately they ended up advising us to keep our C6, implement, apply, and hopefully be designated for the C3. And with that, they ask us if, to kind of mirror our bylaws, our articles of incorporation, our boards, all of those things. And so this revision came at the request, advisement of our attorney, basically who said the provision that I've asked to be considered for approval of, to remove, is an unusual, in, not-for-profit economic development bylaws. And so that's why. And so as soon as I heard that, Supervisor Miller was chair at the time, so I reached out to her, sent her all of the information, sent her the clean copy of the bylaws and what that would look like. And then obviously the section that we are looking to get, deleted. It does not, however, change any of our obligations to the county, any of our accountability. It does not change the board structure. It does not change the fact that the Board of Supervisors will always have a permanent, as long as our partnership stays whole, a permanent position and secondary position on our Board of Directors, one voting, one non-voting, and or the investment structure that is put forth. I will also be going for the same request to the City of Council Bluffs next Monday on the 13th. To pass the request via resolution as well. So,
Just so you're aware, I started this,
well, I was gonna ask him, because I knew you were on like
started it. He and
oh, I know wholeheartedly that. Yeah, I definitely know that. And that's what the attorney said. He said, well, maybe initially there was a reason for it. But he said clearly, this is our 10th year in existence. He said it's a very unusual provision and requested that we remove it.
You started 501(c)(6).
I started
Yeah.
the band Southwest Iowa.
Yeah, yep, because he's, yeah, I've seen all of the.
Easy venture.
the-
It was not easy. Upola wasn't here.
No, sir, I was not.
The last amended bylaws I have are from 2018,
That would be correct, sir.
and it doesn't make any mention to that.
It's in the very last, the very, very end.
I've got it here and it doesn't have anything to do with the.
So I'm not sure what we're amending here or changing because it's not in our agreement with the last time the bylaws were changed. I don't know if you give them a previous set of
I don't
bylaws.
believe so.
Here's the.
I just looked at them yesterday.
Do we have a signed copy? I think it's already been.
I have a signed copy in my digital records. Yes, absolutely. And it is in there.
That was
Our attorney.
Which page is
What
it?
position is our attorney
page
taking?
6. So I'm with Tim. The bylaws that I have,
Doesn't talk
Article
about it.
10 doesn't reference that the board has to make an approval. They don't have to approve it anyway. In Article 10, how I see
Must be, those had to be recorded, I would assume.
We have them, yeah, and they are approved.
Our
Yeah.
recorder over there should have them back when we did this deal.
And when we,
Pete, I think it was Pete, right? Brenda?
Yeah.
yeah, it was Pete. It was
Pete,
Pete.
I and
Mayor Walsh.
Mayor Walsh.
Because these aren't the.
Pete
original
Doris.
bylaws.
That was Dylan.
No,
These are the amended bylaws.
Mike Dillon's are back
they're
there.
amended and they have them in there. So I don't know, like,
So I just haven't seen a copy of any other bylaws.
yeah, we have
It was
them.
amended and approved by the board February 19th of 2019, and it's not in there. That's the only document that we have in our possession.
Well,
of the
there should,
county.
well,
Because you don't generally record the bylaws.
what
They get-
Secretary of
Well, we
State?
don't record them. No, no,
The articles of incorporation are recorded.
they are recorded.
But the
Correct.
bylaws generally don't get recorded.
So we-
But
It's not in our copy, Paula, so I don't know what.
We have a copy and I believe the copy, because again, I just looked at them yesterday, was actually signed by you, Supervisor Wickman.
Well, that's the 2018 version.
Okay, well, I'll go
It's
back
not in
and if we have them, it's in
18
there.
then. You know, it's not a big deal, Paula. I don't
It's
think
not.
if, we have a copy that says they're not in and that was approved by the board. There's really nothing for us to do.
No, that is correct, but I'm telling you the version that we have, that the attorney reviewed, that was approved, that is in there. So
Is it,
I don't know where the,
take another look at that when you get back.
I
You know, if
absolutely
we have
will.
to, if we have to formally do anything about that, I mean, we certainly can. but-
Well, my request to you then would be that I can come back at next week's meeting to clarify all of this because I'm hoping to have all of these documents approved at our January 31st meeting. So we then can submit everything we need to the IRS. I don't want to wait another month to get it done.
Well, and you want to get it resolved before you meet with the city.
Well, yeah, that's very true.
You can meet with us anytime you want to.
Okay, I appreciate that. I will find the discrepancy and where that lies, but
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, any other questions on the reason? If it is in there, we can bring you back the information that you need.
Yeah, I got a question. Our attorney doesn't agree with your attorney, so.
I just haven't seen the other copy of.
No, I
the
understand.
So
Okay, I will get those to you.
as I see it, we don't need to do the resolution because it already doesn't have what you want taken out. So we've already.
If it does?
Which it doesn't. Yeah.
And if it does?
Yeah, I mean,
And
that's,
if it does,
I would like to see it if it does.
okay, then what your opinion would be what?
Depends on how it's written. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I assume it's written out, she put it on here, but, okay.
yeah, I mean, it's written as in how the resolution, I think I copied and pasted from what the attorney language, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, well, I will clarify that yet today and get back in contact with Jeanette and get on the agenda for next Tuesday.
Well, you can go stop and see her and put it on agenda.
Okay, well, I want to clarify, I want to get on my laptop and clarify everything first.
And I apologize, I didn't circle back with you on this before.
No, no problem whatsoever.
Well, can I ask you one more thing? When you,
Yes, sir.
when you send, an email to the representatives of this board for Advanced Southwest Iowa, would you carbon copy Jeanette too, so the board can see the minutes of your meeting and that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I can just add her to the full distribution list if that suits.
That would work.
Okay, yep. Okay, thank you guys very much again.
Thanks for
Appreciate
being
your
here.
support.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to
Elmore,
you.
I'll see you
Bridget, thanks for
Monday.
coming.
See you Wednesday.
Thank you.
Want to go on another,
Getting all
want to go on another?
Yeah,
That
Yeah,
was nice.
that was
though.
great.
I was actually shocked that
Yeah.
everybody was
Want
like
another
rolling.
tour tonight?
No thanks.
Okay.
Too cold.
I got a different subject.
Thanks for coming in, Matt. Paula.
You.
Good to see you, Brenda.
Clearing out.
John Rasmussen, you're the engineer of the day. You should have got put on the top of the agenda, buddy. Discussion
He
and,
wanted to sit and listen. He
I was late to the show.
Oh.
discussion and decision to approve and authorize the chairman to sign contracts for bridge replacement project L dash parent W S 31 parent dash 73 dash 78 with GovCo Inc. in the amount of $198,250.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, Shay, Heller, thank you. Discussion?
The only thing I would ask, John, that was under budget. You don't, and it was a low bid by a ways. You don't anticipate any change orders or anything on this, do you?
No, it was a pretty simple bid.
I thought so. Okay, that's all I have.
And we already have the materials.
Yes, we procured the materials, so this is labor and there's still some materials in there, but not much.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, let's take about a 10 or 15 minute, I don't know, Jeanette probably got food out there.
We have one more item, Scott, and that is the,
Discussion?
On the board.
It's just discussion, we can have that after we get our stuff. Can't we?
we can do whatever you want to do.
What, yeah,
Okay, it's just discussion. Then we're gonna go into a closed session. There's no public comment, is there?
Then we got budgets. I tend to schedule for one.
Right.
Do you want me to end the broadcast?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I'd just say let's just do
Yeah.
that.
Hey, Yeah.
John, thanks for sitting all day.
Brandis passed.
That's
It was good to hear from the legislature.
It really was, wasn't it?